from the south side of Chicago. She left Chicago in 2004 for a traveling job. And I did forget the deal. I don't want to do it. Cherie's not here. Thank you, Natalie. I was just thinking how I'm really looking forward to Reverend Cherie coming back. Because she comes up here and it's just smooth. A boulder could land on the stage and she'd go, oh, and she'd just keep going. So the word for today is loving. The boundless love of God passes through me. I am loving. To be loving means to be kind, understanding, and generous. It means forgiving grievances easily and seeking to understand myself and others. In striving to be loving towards others, I begin with myself, exercising self-compassion when I make a mistake makes me forgiving others easier. Taking time for a self-care makes it more natural for me to be nurturing presence for others. Treating myself well helps make my generosity spontaneous and frequent. Love is the very nature of God. I am a spiritual being, which means love is my nature too. Through my loving nature, I am positive, optimistic, hopeful, and faith-filled. I am the heart and hands of God on earth. I am loving. Love is patient, love is kind, it bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Corinthians 13:4, verse 7. So let's say our affirmation together. The boundless love, I'll say it once because I know you guys don't have it. What happened? Oh my gosh. I know. We will have the monitor next week. I promise. Didn't Dave Workley did our wall? Isn't that beautiful? He made that happen right now. Just boom. The hole's gone. I'll say the affirmation, then we'll do it together. The boundless love of God passes through me. I am loving. The boundless love of God passes through me. I am loving. So now, on to our guest speaker for today. Thomasine's a proud transplant from the south side of Chicago. She left Chicago in 2004 for a traveling job, living in many states, including New Jersey, Tennessee, Georgia, and now finally California. She grew up in a spiritual church, Travelers Rest Spiritual Church, where she was ordained as a minister at age 9. She was introduced to New Thought Christianity as a teenager via Johnny Coleman's church. She's the vice president of the Board of Trustees at Unity of Sacramento, where the senior minister is Reverend Kevin Cottrell Ross. She's proudly studying to become a Unity licensed teacher with Unity Worldwide Ministries. Thomasine's 2 daughters have kept her grounded and taught her patience, kindness, and unconditional love. They have been rooted in Unity principles since birth. So let's give a warm welcome to Thomasine.
Good morning. What a warm welcome, a warm introduction. Thank you so much. This is such a warm greeting this morning. So everybody was up bright and early. We got here probably an hour and a half early because we're in Sacramento, so we wanted to make sure we were here on time and wanted to make sure everybody had their shoes and all of those things. If you're a parent, you understand. You've all been there. And so, I'm grateful to be here this morning. I'm praying for traveling grace for Reverend Cherie Larkin as she goes to Italy. I was there in March. We did a 3-city tour for my birthday, me and my college roommate, one of my best friends. So the last stop was Rome. So Italy is beautiful if you haven't been there. I'm sure she'll have wonderful stories to tell, and she's having a blast. So we just believe in God for a wonderful time, and I'm sure she'll have wonderful things to say. I felt welcomed by the process and in her absence, and he already said that I'm at Community of Sacramento, so we bring you greetings from there. So it'd be wonderful for us to all get together since we're about 40 miles away. So I noticed Reverend Larkin always starts with some humor, so I wanted to be in alignment and bring, because I know everybody misses their minister when they're gone. Everybody does, right? So I got a small joke. So there's a young man, and he gets his, he got his license, his permit, rather, his instruction permit, which my oldest daughter just got hers. So you can imagine the excitement, and everybody wants to drive. So he goes to his father, and he says, we need to discuss my driving time. Like, when are we going to get together and have a schedule where we can go out and drive? His father said, well, come into the study. Let's talk about it and see what we can do. Let's create a schedule. This is what you need to do. You need to bring your grades up. You need to do some chores around the house, read your Bible, and cut your hair. And he's like, okay, great. So about a month goes by. He goes back to his dad, and he's like, well, I've done all those things. You see, my grades are up. Everything's going well. I'm doing chores, if you noticed, and everything's going well. I've been reading my Bible. And he goes, but you didn't cut your hair. And he goes, well, I've been reading the Bible. And he's like, Moses didn't cut his hair. Jesus didn't cut his hair. and his father goes, and they walked everywhere. Yeah, I thought that was funny. I'm at the stage where I do the dad/mom jokes. So my talk today is about changing and positioning for change. So what prompted me now, I was recommended by another senior minister here, Reverend Carolyn Ramundi. She is the pastor of Congregational Care. Wonderful. If you haven't met her, she's an absolute joy. So even before I knew that I was going to get the opportunity to speak here, I was led to the scripture. So I'm watching Hulu, and there's this movie on there, The Supremes, and I'm not talking about Diana Ross or those Supremes, but it's a group of friends, and they're growing up together, and they talk about their birth story, and there's one feisty friend in particular. So we all have that in our family and our friends, the one boisterous, the one loud. That might be me and my friendships, I don't know. But none of my friends are here, so I can say whatever I want, because nobody's here to confirm or deny. It is being recorded. They'll get it, but they're not here today. So they have wonderful friendships, and they talk about these friendships and how their friendships develop. They go all the way back to their birth story. And one in particular, the birth story, the woman is pregnant with a fiery friend, and she goes to a doctor, not necessarily a medical doctor, but she goes and she says, I've been pregnant a long time. If you've given birth, that last month is a long time. So she goes, she said, I really would like to have the baby. I haven't gone in labor. And so they said, you know what you need to do? You need to climb a sycamore tree. What kind of recommendation is that? So she climbs the tree, and she's sitting there, she's waiting, and then she goes into labor. She gives birth at the sycamore tree. So I'm watching this, and I was like, wow, I hadn't even heard of a sycamore tree, and but it took me to the Bible, and there's a point in Luke 19 where Jesus is walking through Jericho, and that's where he meets Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus is up in the sycamore tree. Now this is the story it's very short. Zacchaeus is like a blurb in there. So I've read Luke many times, but somehow this is something you can miss because it's a very short. So now Zacchaeus is a tax collector. Can you imagine a tax collector in biblical days? There's no letters. There's no customer service. He is collecting taxes, going door to door, I'm sure. Now, not only is he collecting taxes, he's overcharging. That's problematic. So he does not have a good reputation. Nobody likes him. Zacchaeus metaphysically means short in stature, childlike. So a sycamore tree, if you've ever seen it, is deeply rooted, but the branches are flimsy. I think that's significant because I wouldn't climb a tree at this point as an adult, right? While you do it when you're younger, the branches can support you, but he picks a branch that, he could fall. So he decides, like, within himself, like, I need to change. Jesus is coming. He's walking through Jericho. Imagine all the crowds. Nobody likes him. So it's not easy for him to get through the crowd because nobody's the tax collector, right? So nobody's in love with their property tax bills or anything like that. However, he walks, he gets up. Jesus looks up and says, Zacchaeus, come down from there. So the fact that Jesus knows his name shows his omnipresence, his all-knowing, his omniscience. He comes down, he says, I'm going to dine with you tonight. Imagine that. The murmuring. So the crowd represents all the murmuring, all of the naysayers, all the you can't change. He's a tax collector. He's a sinner. He's terrible, right? He's awful. You're going to eat with the tax collector. He owes me money. So he dines with him. Zacchaeus is ecstatic. And he dines with, and I would imagine Jesus will want nice accommodations. So Zacchaeus is rich. So he's like, oh, I'll go there. I'm sure they're going to have wonderful food, wonderful servants. He goes there. He dines with him. Zacchaeus is changed forever. At that point, he says, you know what? Thank you. I'm so grateful. And I'm paraphrasing, of course, but you can see it for yourself in Luke 19. And again, it's short, but it's powerful, the redemptive power and the change, how he positioned himself to turn his life around. And not only that, he repaid the people fourfold, as it says in the scripture. So, anyway, so as the Bible goes on, we can see this change. It's a common theme throughout the Bible. So we've seen that with Saul, when he changes in the road to Damascus, we see when he decided, you know what, because he and basically wrote the New Testament. We've seen that with the woman with the issue of blood, as she decided, hey, I'm going to go through the crowd and make sure that I get to touch his hem of the garment, which I think is interesting because, again, Jesus is like, well, who touched me? And it can imagine his disciples like, well, there are thousands of people here. How will we know which person has touched you? But the virtue, he could feel something leave him. And he knew that he had been touched and they had been contact and elevation of an exchange in consciousness. We've also seen it in the with the woman, the sinning woman. There's always the idea of someone not being worthy based on some of the things that they did or said or some of their behavior or their reputation. However, those things do not matter to the holy presence. The only thing that matters is that we change and we work on ourselves and we recognize the awareness within us. So again, we saw that with the woman within the alabaster box, who anointed Jesus' feet with her tears and wiped with her hair. So it doesn't matter how deeply rooted or thought is or the behavior is or anything of that nature. It only matters that we are aware and recognize the awareness of the Christ presence within us and within others. So we're not so quick to judge, that we can position ourselves to move forward and change the things that we have done or haven't done or we would like to do. The crowd being like the naysayers and those which is a doubt and fear and things that are opposite of truth. And the truth is all-knowing, all-powerful, the Spirit of God, which is within all of us. So when we see things that are not necessarily in alignment within ourselves, we recognize that and we can position ourselves. And we do that, of course, with prayer and affirmation, and we can replace those thoughts with positive thoughts. And we can use that with affirmations and the things from the Bible, and of course, and anyway, so in affirmation and meditation, it is not necessarily one thing, one size fits all. So sometimes when I'm meditating, it's not necessary. It might be, of course, I usually do quiet time in the morning, but sometimes I'm running, sometimes I'm folding clothes, or sometimes it's any of that quiet time where we can sit in the presence. And we have seen that theme throughout the Bible. We saw it when Jesus went up, and you had time to commune with this presence within us. So we always have that opportunity to move forward and change our lives and reposition ourselves by changing our thoughts. When we change our thoughts, we create new experiences because it prompts our subconscious, which is that's the driving wheel, that's the gas to move forward. So the things in changing, it changes the way we live, it changes our habits, and we can move forward in life and whatever we want to be. It does not matter anything. It doesn't matter our age, our size, our stature, and I think that is seen throughout the Bible. I'm like that they use the chaos because not only is it small in size, but it represents a childlike nature. Usually children are more apt to take steps and leaps of faith. So it's important that we, have the childlike faith and move forward, and we can position ourselves in a place and see ourselves on the inside where we would like to be. So as I, conclude with this, and then I have a meditation, I like to say we can recondition with replacing our dominant thoughts with the truth that God is omnipresent, omnipower, omnipotent, and not only living with us, but we are actually living in the presence of God. And we can feel the presence in our quiet time. We can feel it when we interact with other people, and it irradiates. That's the beauty of love. Love is contagious, just like laughter and joy. So as we change ourselves, we change and impact one another. That's why it's important to there's no change that's too small that it can't impact other people. It's wonderful to change our circle of influence by being what we are called to be. We don't get anywhere by playing small. We want to radiate all of our joy and all of our love and all the goodness and the things that we know that God is. That's the beauty, and what I love about Unity Church is that it's accepting of all people. We accept the presence of God. We know that we have the power within ourselves to move forward, to change the conditions by changing our minds, which ultimately changes everything around us and everything we want to be. It doesn't matter how old or young or anything. The absolute truth ultimately radiates and is the driving force. That is the only power active in our life. So when I came to Unity Church as an adult, I learned to understand that I have more power than I believe, and I'm not waiting for somebody to come back or waiting for something else to happen or waiting for my neighbor. I know within myself that I have the power to change, and that God has blessed us with all these wonderful gifts, all this wonderful knowledge that we can use. And we can use the Bible, of course, in our affirmation. We have so many tools that can position us to be in the places that we want to be. So I am very, very grateful for that. So what I've noticed in the Bible is it took a change in thought, a shift in consciousness, which is available to all of us. That awareness is consciousness. So the awareness of the presence within, making a positive change, and of course corresponding action, because faith without work is so all our Bible students resounding. So if we are moving in that, so once we not only we change on the inside, we make a decision. Once you make, nothing can stop a made up mind. Take corresponding action in faith in positive ways. Doing the affirmation, it ultimately changes everything that we like to see in our lives. It is absolutely wonderful. It's a wonderful power. I've seen it in my life many times. And I'll give some examples for myself. When I came here, I drove here from Tennessee in the dead of winter. You know, 2004 Ford Taurus. Right. So my father goes, "Are you gonna drive your car? Because it was old, but it was paid for, and I was glad." So and I had my I had my two daughters with me, and my father was like, "Just call us every state." So he gave me an atlas. Nobody even uses this anymore. He gave me an atlas, and he circles. I was born and Wayne, New Jersey. He circles it, and we drive out. At that time, my daughter, we've been here 10 years now. My daughters were 1 and 5. So imagine that in the dead of winter, I came across 80 all the way in December in 2013. So I'm going to fast forward. My oldest daughter was in school. She was in kindergarten at the time. And I had to just switch schools. So I switched schools, and she went to a particular school. She was in a Christian school, but we had to just switch in the middle of the year because my job sent me here to Sutter. So at the end of that school, about six, she was there about 6 months because we came in December. She graduated kindergarten in May. During that time, we went to, she's been reading since she was 3 years old. We went and the teacher tells me, "Well, she's not reading." And I'm like, "Well, why are you not reading?" And she goes, "Well, it's too loud." And so I decided, well, I wanted to, I said, "Well, I need to change the school." And I volunteered there to see, well, what is going on that is so loud in the school. So I volunteered, and it is like 35 children in there. God bless the teachers. Let's hold them in prayer. So I'm like, it's too loud. So I'm volunteering in the back as an adult, and I wonder, it is loud. Like, it's hard for me to even work with the children. Where we were at another school where they took them out, where everybody did separate reading in a different room. So I decided, I said, "Well, she can't go here anymore." And there was always, always wanted them to be in good schools because I definitely believe in education. So I decided to put her in Mary Hill. If you've heard, you might have been heard of Mary Hill. Now, so I go into the school, and this is about changing your mind and faith, and I'm just trying to bring it all in. I go in there, and I wanted to give a personal example. I have tons of testimony, but I wanted to give one that I felt would resonate. So I go into the school. Well, I called the school, and then I made an appointment with the director. I go in, and she was like, "Oh yeah, come on in." She was like, "Well, guess what?" And she was like, and I didn't know I was going to pay for the school. You look up the tuition, okay? So I just, I had no idea, but I knew she was going. So it's about the made up thought, making up mind, and changing. So I go in, and I'm like, okay, great. So first of all, the school I called is not the school I went to because I was new here. So I just went to, I thought I was in one place. However, I was in the right place. So the principal comes out. They've never even heard this story. The principal goes out and so she was like, she has to be tested, whatever. She takes the test. She was like, great, she's welcome here. She started first grade there. Okay, that's my timekeepers. They know their mother. So, and I'm gonna wrap it up. so, so anyway, so the principal comes out and she goes, well, we had a family that left, and so the registration fee was $500. She was like, we had a family left. They were on a scholarship. We'll give it to you. So not only did I get the scholarship, but then the registration fee was $300 as opposed to the $500. Mind you, I used all my money to drive here from in the dead of winter at Christmas time. So I just wanted to leave you with that because apparently I'm out of time. But I just wanted to know that I just want to reinforce that changing your thoughts, making a decision, and of course corresponding action is what replenishes us and reminds us the awareness of what's inside. And then I do have a meditation. And the meditation is from 365 Days of Richer Living. Daily Inspiration by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Parker. Freely and joyously, I let right action take place in my life. Now the God of hope fills you with joy and peace in believing that ye may abound in hope through the power of Holy Spirit. Romans 15:13. The law of life is a law of cooperation with all that is fine and true. Believing that life is God in action, we must accept its processes with a firm conviction that in the long run, all things will work together for good. Resistance brings contraction. Cooperation brings expansion. God's mind is already in perfect action. We cannot start it working for us, for it is already trying to bring forth good by means of us. However, it does require that we accept its methods, its ideas, its plans. Today, the infinite has arranged more good for each of us than our finite thinking can comprehend. With joy, we open our whole body of consciousness to the divine inflow. We expect this spiritual presence to be in us an accomplishing power for demonstration. Nothing can prevent the truth from appearing in our world, for omnipotence itself is in action at every instant. Freely and joyously, I let right action take place in my life. I know that God's mind is thinking through me at this moment, and greater results than I have ever dreamed are now appearing. There is nothing in my thought to block the action of God. I am willing to let my little thoughts go, knowing that the great thoughts of being guide me into the paths of pleasantness and ways of peace. I accept without reservation the abundance that my Father has for me today. Every hour brings me the fulfillment of all my needs and desires. I believe in God. I love God. I have faith in God's process. I live in the joy and the right action of spirit. Thank you.
Good morning, Unity of Auburn. Thank you, Thomasine, for that message. We're talking about change. I have a song about change that I'd like to share with you. And we're going to get the band up here. We have a whole band here ready to play this great song called I Can See Clearly Now. Yeah. And so, you know, we're living in a changing world. And we have a change here, and we're going to have even another change next week. And I'm ready for change. I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles out of my way. Gone are the dark clouds that had me blind. It's gonna be a bright, bright, sunshiny day. It's gonna be a bright,